Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. So today we're going to talk about installing our tool n8n. There are several people who send me messages saying, okay, we want to do automation, how do we install n8n? So the answer is simple. There are two ways to do it. Either we buy n8n directly online to simply have an online server, and especially to have n8n installed and start using automation right away. Or there is a second option, which is the option to install n8n locally on a machine. So in this video, I will show you both possibilities. And especially the second one, I will explain step by step for beginners, so they can do it simply with a few lines of code to put online and actually set up n8n on the local machine, meaning on their computer, without having to buy an online server. But before starting, it's very important to understand, by the way, what is the difference? The difference, especially in fact, is in the usage. That means if I want to create an n8n scenario to activate it, meaning I will enable it to be operational at that moment, in fact, I cannot do it solely on the machine. Because if I do it on my computer, what will happen? There will simply be a problem, because every time I shut down my computer, this automation will not work. And we know that, well, a computer or even a desktop computer, and sometimes they go into sleep mode, sometimes we shut it down. So, as a result, the automation will not function. And so, especially when we are creating automation for a business, or even for myself, when I create an automation and sell it to a company, I require that they use an online server like this. It is hassle-free and will simply use another management, a real automation that works. The second thing that is very important when we install on our computer n8n, you will see it's very simple to install, but there are sometimes a few nodes when we use them. I can say, for example, Instagram, WhatsApp, yeah, Telegram. There are certain requirements, even Google's products, when they are going to be connected or used in your workflow. What will happen is they will require you to have a connection with the HTTPS protocol. And on a local machine, we don't have that. There you go. So today, even when you install it on a local machine, I will give you the free tip on how you can also have HTTPS. But still, it will require some technical and IT steps to follow so that I can show you how to set it up easily. So don't worry, I will also provide you with documentation, which is this one. I will give it for free. Everything I will show you, explain to you, you will find here, step by step with documentation explanation. So you can follow along with me everything I will do and use. And if I look, for example, at the use of n8n, locally or online, the answer is simple for me. It will depend on your usage. If you're a student, you don't have much budget, or you don't have a budget at all, and you still want to use automation to learn, to test, you can do it locally, but be careful. You need to do installations and configurations. But if you are someone who wants to learn automation, but are willing to pay €6 to have a good plan that is not expensive, and have a pre-installed system to go straight to automation without focusing on installations and fixing unnecessary bugs, you get an online server directly and keep your mind at ease. In this video, I show you two ways to quickly get an online server with an installation. Predefined, we don't have to code anything in it. And the second plan, how to install it. Step by step to really see the n8n fully operational with all possible options on the local machine. But for that, of course, you need to follow me step by step to be able to achieve it. Thank you and stay until the end of the video so I can also give you the documentation. All right then, here we go. I'm going to talk about purchasing n8n online. So first of all, to know, n8n is open source, which means if I say the word purchase, it's not. We are going to buy the code. No, we are going to buy a server that will host n8n. That's it. And today, there are quite a few providers on the market offering it, but I will obviously take the two most well-known and today the most recommended. One, I can go directly to the official n8n website. But here, on the official site, there is a small problem. Quite simply, the cost is a bit expensive. And especially, we are allowed to activate only 5 workflows at a time. And that's very little. That is to say, look, even if I make the payment monthly, I find that I can pay $24 each month. It's a bit high because there are many other providers offering this at a lower cost. And the second thing that is very important is that I can, of course, have an unlimited server. Because look here, if I look here, it tells me, be careful, it's 5 workflows at a time. And that's very little, and I actually can't accept that. So as a result, the second possibility is that I can, for example, go for external servers that offer me n8n, which is already installed. I'll show you that means. Pre-installation. That is, I enter, I select it. Hello n8n is operational. And there we go from $24 to $6.99, which is much more interesting. And even here, in fact, it will offer me several types of servers. So the one that I use or recommend to you is the one with 2 processors. Because having a server with 2 processors is more than sufficient. That means it is capable of executing workflows that are complex and advanced. To see 4 servers, or rather 4 processors, like this one. This, of course, is for companies that have hundreds of active workflows at the same time. But for someone who wants to create multiple workflows and activate 10 or 20 at a time, this one is more than sufficient. I click on Select and you will see that here, the process is very simple. I will simply select the server location. Well, generally, you will choose the server that is closest to you. If you are in France, you will select France. And there you will see that also, I have a discount code where you can go to another server again. More interesting in terms of price. When I click here on Apply, you will see I go directly to $50 rather for 2 years. So more or less, in fact, we are at $6 somewhere per month. And there it's much more interesting. And be careful, this is also very important to know that here we actually have a 30-day guarantee. That's very interesting. It's different from the official site, which only gives you 15 days. So having 30 days means that for 30 days I can test the workflows, do the manipulations, do everything, and afterwards. In fact, if I'm not interested, I can actually choose not to continue with Hostinger. And so that's very interesting. So this guarantee for me is really something very, very interesting. So once that's done, you simply need to click here on Continue to actually proceed with the installation. And you will see that the installation is very easy. That's what I'm going to show you right away. Let's go. So the first thing to do is to actually select the location of your server. So here, it's not very important, but for me, I actually choose France since it's the closest server to me. So I click on Continue. After that, you simply need to search for n8n. So either you will type n8n or you will go into the application here and you will find n8n. Attention. Sometimes when you search for n8n, it may give you variations. In fact, there are 2 versions, so there's n8n, there's n8n that mode. Well, we will. Choose the most popular one, which is this one, as it is the simplest. Here we find the basic installations. And then you will simply click on Select. Select, it will simply switch you to that mode. Here, it offers you a small software that will help you. Like what? It's an antivirus that will block unknown external connections. Here you take it, it's free. So I click on Next. And here it will simply ask me to create a password to actually have access to n8n on VPS server. And here you simply go here, there you go, you click here, it will suggest a password for you. There you go. So by default, or you can create your own password. And here it's actually the name of your server. So this one you can copy paste. In any case, we can retrieve it later. But you will simply copy paste it somewhere, secure this URL and your password. And there you go, it's done. You will simply click here on Finish. And then what it will do is start the installation and setup. If you want actually for your server, generally, it will take a maximum of 5 minutes to have direct access to your server, which is a pre-configured n8n server. You won't have to type any line of code. You will have direct access to your dashboard to create your first workflow. And there it's done, so it shows me the message. What does it say? The installation was successfully completed. And now I can simply access it to manage our dashboard, our server. There you go. On this interface, you have the option to change the language here. You can set it to the language that interests you, and you can see that my server is operational, which means I have an online server that will be running for 2 years. So it won't shut down, meaning every time I create a workflow, it will be active and operational. And to actually manage this server and simply access your n8n, you will find it here. In fact, there's a small option called Manage the Application. You will see when I click here, it will switch me to my n8n interface. And so the last step, I will simply enter my email address, my first name, my last name, and a password here. So this interface is one that will secure my access to n8n. The other access we had earlier was access to our server. But this one, in fact, is access to n8n. So here, I just invite you to fill in this information and, of course, keep it in a secure place. And there you go, we are almost done with the last step. It asks me if I want to receive a key or a license to activate your free and lifetime license for your workflow. And of course, I will click here to actually receive a code. It's a key, in fact, that will unlock the workflows for life and for free. All set. I actually received the key via the internet in my email inbox. Okay. So what am I going to do? I will simply go here in my configuration space, and you will see here in settings, you have the option to add your key. So look here, there is this option that allows you to add this key. You just need to click. And now I will copy and paste my key. And there you go, my key has just been activated. So you will see here that I simply have an unlimited number of users for my workflow. And it's done. So now I have my n8n server ready to be installed. So if I go back here to my dashboard, I will simply have the ability to start easily. In fact, a new workflow by clicking here. All right. So now we are going to work on installing n8n on the local machine. That means on your computer, at home. So how are we going to do it? We will do it in 2 steps. First step, we will install it like this in localhost mode. This one works, but it lacks the HTTPS protocol to be able to use and manipulate the nodes. Like our Instagram, like the WhatsApp node, like the Google product nodes, also Telegram. There are several nodes. When you reconnect them with localhost, they will not accept it because for them, it is not secure. So what do they need? They need somewhere that your workflow, when it connects, will require that. Here, we will put HTTPS. And for that, I will do a second part in the installation where I will show you how you can get HTTPS here with what we call a free subdomain. And thanks to that domain, even when you work in localhost on your machine, on your computer, every time you make external connections, n8n will appear with HTTP. This is a very important step. We will start with the 2 parts. The part with our localhost and a part to get the domain name. Of course, we will refer to this documentation that I will show you step by step so that you can replicate it and reproduce the installation that I will do now with you. Let's go. The first thing to do, we need to install Docker. So, of course, there are several types of installations, but the one I will show you now is the simplest. And the one that is the most documented today on the internet, therefore. So, we will use Docker. Docker. So, you can simply download it here on your computer, and then, of course, it will ask you what kind of machine you are using. For me, I use a Mac, so I will choose the Mac. Even within the Mac, it asks me what type of processor. I have a processor. Apple, so I will choose that one. If you are working on Windows, as you can see, you will find the Windows versions, and you will even find the Linux versions. So, it's a simple installation. The Mac version is 475 MB, so you just need to install it. I will receive a file on my computer and then I will install it by double-clicking and following the installation instructions. So it's a simple installation on a local machine. Once Docker is installed, you will see here it will first ask me to run it. And I can enter this command in my browser or in my terminal to ensure that Docker is properly installed on my machine. Of course, first of all, I start Docker. So it's very important to launch the application. So now it is starting up. Once I have this Docker open, I will simply return to the terminal here. I will paste this command, which is Docker version. So this one, in fact, there you go. It tells me, be careful, you have the key28 key version well installed on your machine. So there we have completed the first step, which is the most important step, the installation of Docker. So the next steps are simple. We will actually need to create what we call an image and create what we call containers. So these two pieces of information, when I enter here, of course, they are empty. So as a result, I will simply do the installations of n8n inside, in fact, this software, which is Docker. So the second step is very simple. In fact, we will need to create a file called docker-compose.yml. So how to do it? It's simple. First, it's very important, in fact, to create a folder. I chose the desktop. Here is my computer. So on my desktop, I created a folder called n8n. So here, if you like, we will install all the files, information, and data related to n8n. So I created the folder, and inside I simply write a file with the YML extension. So you create a txt file. Then you will rename it and change the txt to YML. And what are we going to put inside this file? Quite simply, you will copy and paste. In fact, this code here from my file, I'll explain it to you if you like. In this code, it will actually launch certain information, certain commands. The first command is to create the image, then the container. And then it will provide the port information. And you will see that. These are the environment information that we will later modify. And here it writes what we call the volume. It is important because this is where we will install the files of our workflows. In any case, this file here. You simply copy it and then create the file in question, and you will see as you proceed. On my PC, I created the file and I copied and pasted this information, so now I have a file with this data on my computer. Afterwards, what do I need to do? I need to, let's say, execute this file, which means running it in the terminal to launch these commands inside. So I'm simply going to copy that, but be careful. First of all, I need to position myself in the path of that file. So that's important. So how to do it? It's simple. Look here, I'm in the terminal. I'm going to type the command cd. CD, it allows you to enter a folder. And then once I do that, you'll see I'll be in that folder. Look, I hold it like this with my mouse and I'm going to put it here to avoid typing the entire path, simply. And then I press enter. You'll see that now my computer is pointing to that folder. And now all that's left to do is copy this line of code and place it here. So what is this line going to do? This line, in fact, will execute the information inside that file. So I press enter, and there you go. It's actually in the process of doing what's necessary to download all the important files to run n8n. So generally, it's an operation that actually takes between 3 and 4 minutes. So you let it run. It all depends, of course, on the internet connection you are using. If you have a good connection, it will go very, very quickly, because every time it downloads, it checks for updates and installs them. So at this point, I have to wait for all of this to switch to download complete mode. So that the system, of course, ensures that the files are installed. Gradually, of course, I can look at the folder. You will see that here, inside the folder, it is still empty because I will need to run other commands to continue the installation. So now I will let it finish 100% so that I can move on to the next command. Now, the installation has just been completed. When you see it there, it has already even launched the container. So there it is in active mode. By the way, if I go to Docker, you will see that here at the container level. So now I have a container that is fully active here. There you go. So it is operational. If I go to the image, the same thing at the image level, I have the image here that has been created, of course, Docker. In fact, it has downloaded all the files that are necessary with n8n. So then, what am I going to do now? I will obviously try to move on to the next step, which is to actually access my server. So if you actually copy this URL into your browser, you will of course find yourself in your n8n interface. Of course, if it's the first time you're doing it, it will ask you to create a login and password. So you create your login and password, and it will send you, of course, a free license by email that you will copy. So that's completely normal when launching n8n locally. There you go. So now, of course, I have n8n installed, but be careful. We're still in localhost mode. I can work with it, but if I call upon some nodes, I might encounter difficulties because there are nodes that do not accept localhost and require HTTPS. So generally, if you are 18 years old, you will create fairly classic simple nodes and you won't call upon tools or nodes that require HTTPS. Up to that point, the work is fine. You can click here to create your workflow and start your work. But if you want a much more advanced configuration, you obviously need to move on to the next step. So the next step is simply the second part. Here we will use something called ngrok. What is ngrok? It's a website. So this is the access to the site. This site, in fact, will allow us to have online APIs, and this is also free. So you just need to create your account here. So you will click on Synapse, and it's the first time, and then have access to your account. So the account is simply this interface. And then we need actually to download by clicking here, actually in the to download a file. This one, of course, I have to choose actually my platform because I'm on a Mac. But if you are on Windows, you will click here and select Windows, Linux. There, you are free to choose your operating system. For me, it's Mac. So quite simply, I click here to download the file. You will see. When I download a file, I'll show you right away, I will receive a file that is zipped like this. So what I'm going to do, of course, I need to decompress it because I need to retrieve the file. So there you use WinZip or WinRAR, it depends, to get a file. And the file, when I decompress it, I will simply place it in a folder. You create a folder of your choice, all right? There you go, my grog. And I place this file there, so it's the file we just downloaded. So this is a very important step that will simply allow me to retrieve, of course, the steps. They are well explained. Here, there is access to the site, and you will obviously need to decompress the file to be able to do the work that we will see later, step by step. And so the work will continue on. Docker, desktop. So here I will go to containers, and this is very important. And you will find here that there is a container, in fact, that is active. So it's simply the old container on localhost. We will delete it and install a new container using ngrok. How to do it? First, I stop it, okay? So I stop it, as you can see, I select here, and then I delete it. So I will no longer need containers, and thus the proof that here I no longer have containers is actually normal. Now the local host will no longer work. So as a result, when I click on the image, you will see that the image is operational. But in this image, of course, here I need to press run for it to work. But at the same time, when I click on run, a new container will be created. How to do it? It's simple. I click here. Be careful. It will ask me if I have options to add. And yes, we do have options. We have practically 4 mandatory options, which we will add here. So here we will fill it with 4 variables. In these 4 variables, I will show you step by step what you need to put. So we will start by giving a name to our container. Listen here in the documentation, you will go directly to 2, and you will simply give a name to that container. So I can simply make a small copy there. But after the name, you can change it and give a name that interests you. In any case here, I take a name that is in the documentation, so I copy that. I go back to Docker, I give a name to my container. Then I need to move on to a port. So the port, in fact, is the internal port. And you will see that here, it's the port of n8n. But here it's an internal port. So I can suggest a port, for example, 4555555, but afterwards you can put 6666. You are free. It's optional. And so there, I need to fill in the information at the volume level and the information at the path level. So if I look in the documentation, you will see here, in fact, it's very, very important to point to the folder that exists on your computer that we created for n8n. So if I come back here, if I click there on path, I will select that file. So there, I click on open. So there, this is where my installation will be. And there, the container path, I will set the default container, which is this one. You will simply copy paste this file. As you will find it here, it's the default one. I can change it, but I prefer to leave the default one from n8n. Next, we will need to fill in 4 variables. These are the 4 variables. So how are we going to copy paste them? It's simple. You will copy this, and of course you won't include the equal sign. You stop here, then the value is true. So here we will do the same thing. I will paste this variable, and here the value I will set to true. The second variable is this one. We will copy it like this. So here, I copy the URL and come back here. I will copy paste. And here, the value of the URL we will set to HTTP s2.2. There you go, like this. You will write it like this. And now I will need to retrieve the path here, this URL, from this line. So then I go back to my setup here. So here I am on the ngrok dashboard. And you will see, there you go. Here I actually switch to static it domain, because by default you are here. So here I don't want it to stay on localhost. So I click on static domain. And there you will have actually retrieved this URL. Of course, at the beginning you will find a small button there. It tells you to create, in fact, the URL. You say yes. And there I will copy the URL. So I copy the URL up to here at AP. Okay? This entire line and the reconciliation, that's why there is no HTTPS protocol. That's why I bought them manually. So there, I copy this, I go back to Docker, it's important, there you go, and I will paste it, it's done. Then we will actually move on to the next step. Here, it's the webhook, which is very important. So there, I will copy it, and I will paste it here as a variable. So regarding the value, it's actually the same as your website. So here, I will simply copy it. There you go, we will copy it. Shall we? Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V, there you go. So there, with all the information. The last variable is this one. So there, I will copy it, same thing. So I come, I will paste it. And here I will do, in fact, the file system. So there, we just copied it. So there, I made the exact configuration, and my system is now operational. I click on a year to run this new container, so you will see there. It will then do its log and give it to me. In fact, the complete connection with this domain name. So it's true that if I click to execute this URL, it won't open. That's completely normal because we will actually need to do a second part where I will make a configuration. There you go. Add a few lines so that the configuration is completed 100%. So now we will open our terminal and I will, of course, simultaneously return here to the setup and installation. You will see that here, in fact, if I go back here to home, you will see that it actually offered me 3 command lines. The first, the second, and the third. And you will see that in the second one, in fact, there is a token. So that's very, very interesting. Each one will have its own token. So then I will start by installing, let's say, ngrok to proceed with the installation. So first, I copy this. Careful, I go back here to my terminal. Preferably, we can either close this. Look, I close it and I will open a new terminal. So now we will open it. It will be better to avoid using code lines to go back and locate the folder. So you do the same thing. Here, I open a new terminal. I type cd. And now we will do, be careful, the same thing. Remember here, I downloaded ngrok and placed it in this folder. So now I will position myself in this folder. I press enter. So now I am inside. And so now you remember these commands, we will try to execute them here. So now we will paste and I install. In fact, the ngrok. So now it will generally take, let's say, 4 to 5 minutes. So don't worry. If it stays like this, let it work. It will start for me since the installation is already done. So now I have completed the installation. So as a result, it won't take long to load. But for you, if it's the first time you're doing it, it takes 4 to 5 minutes. Don't worry if it keeps loading, it's in the process of installing. So I continue. Now here, I will move on to the second line, which is this one. We will copy it. And so, as a result, here, of course, we will try to execute this command. So, I will open my terminal, paste it, press enter, and you will see here. In fact, it recognizes this command if you haven't done the installation. At first, it won't recognize it, but here it does recognize it. It has copied. In fact, the configuration, so everything is fine. So now what remains is you will see that here I have a last line, so I will copy it as it is. But be careful. Instead of 80, we will put 555, so the new port that we used. If you have changed the port, for example, Here you are not going to use 55555, you used 66666, then you use your new port. So this is a simple installation. So here I will paste, and here I will rather delete. There you go. We will delete this and we will put, there you go. And I enter. So what happened, of course, is that the configuration has just been launched. All that's left to do is to try to visit this website. And so what am I going to do? I will simply try to create an account here with a login and a password and simply click on next.